Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate how to assemble a Språng chair. I've got some of my hardware here. This would have been in 2 bags. We've got the base kit assembly and the back kit assembly. We also have the Lazy Susan. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to unpack the 2 chair legs, which are bundled together. And the chair legs have a top and a bottom piece, and we just put those together like that. Okay. So here's your base piece. We're going to start by attaching the bungee clips and the pump assembly. So we're going to get 4 of the cable clips. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to get 4 of the panhead screws, like so. And you could use a Phillips head screwdriver. It'll go a lot faster if you have a drill, which I refer to as a cordless screw gun. And we're just going to attach those. You just want those tight enough so they don't swivel. So there's our 4 nylon bits. If a pump was included, it's going to be in a separate bag like this. And so there's a little accessory bag, and you're going to need that tip. And you've got your bracket and your pump. So you're going to take the bracket and you're going to locate the front of the chair, which is opposite. There's kind of a diamond pattern of holes at the back of the chair, and there's just 2 extra pilot holes at the front. And you're going to grab 2 more of your panhead screws for attaching the pump. And probably should have shown you, I like to attach it with this is made for a bicycle, so there's a curve that would fit around a bike tube. I have the concave part facing up towards me. All right, so we've got the 4 brackets, the 4 clips and the pump. In the original instructions, I put the bungees in later, but if you put them in now before you attach the legs, it's much easier. You just have to do this. And so the 4 bungees are in, and Angus, I don't know if you can zoom in, but here, these cleats, which you can see when the chair is upside down, are what lock the bungees later when we flip that over. So actually, it's time to flip this over, and we're going to attach the legs. So we've got 4 of these wood screws, and actually, the smart thing to do is locate the holes by hand before you start trying to drill into them. There you are. Before the legs are screwed in, you can wiggle them a little bit back and forth if you're not finding that all the holes are lining up. So we're going to screw these in. And so our legs are nice and flush. And actually, before you attach the top plate, we have to attach this hardware as well. So we're going to attach the casters and the back brace hardware. So flipping this over, now the front is where the bike bracket is. So the locking casters have a little lock like that. And what I like to do is sometimes I wrap my feet around the outside of the chair. So there's an acorn nut and a flathead bolt, or actually a panhead bolt, I like to put the acorn nut on the inside so that my ankles don't bump into it. This bracket has a little bit extra play. So we actually need to squeeze that a little bit. So hopefully you won't have to do this, but if you do, you can just give those a little squeeze. And there we go. Now that is through. So I'm actually going to set the Lazy Susan aside, and I'm going to get the back hardware. So the back bracket is 2 pieces that seat together like this. And before I sent everything skittering, I had laid out 2 of these. So this is a cross dowel bolt. So we've got 2 cross dowel bolts. And what we're going to do is you insert the cross dowel bolt so that the hole is facing up to line up with this hole. And it is a tight fit. And we just press that in until it lines up. And we do the same thing with this one. And if you're having trouble getting that in, you can just tap that in a little bit. And the screws should, for the most part, line up with the slits going straight up and down. If the bolt doesn't line up perfectly, you can wiggle it when you go to attach it. So we're going to do that. So we've got our 2 flathead bolts that are going to sit flush inside the top, and they're going to line up with our 2 holes. So we do that, and we do that. And if these lined up properly, okay, so this one, we're just gonna wiggle that around a little bit until it lines up. Wait a second. There we go. And actually, I'm not going to tighten those down all the way until I attach the other piece of the underneath bracket. So there's 2 more holes up here, and they're going to get 2 wood screws. And if you just finger tighten those first to make sure you're lining them up with the holes, and then you screw those in. And then I'm going to tighten down the rest of my back bracket. So our back bracket is nice and secure. And now we're going to attach the Lazy Susan. So this has 4 access holes in it, and there are 2 pilot holes here. So what we're going to do is you just line up one of the access holes with the access hole in the base, and we line up our 4 screws, and we're going to take 4 more of our flathead screws, 1. Two. If you do try to sight this in advance, it'll save you a little bit of time when you flip it over. There's 4 larger holes in the Lazy Susan that are going to line up with those 4 holes. So what I do is if I square those up with the base, so I know more or less where they're going to land when I flip this over. So I'm going to line up those 4 holes squared up with me, and actually you want to line up one. If you start out by lining up one of the holes with the access hole, is that what you want to do? No, we'll just do it like that. We'll aim for the base, and yeah, I guess we do need to do it that way. Actually, you line up one of the screw holes with the access hole, and then you just look through it until you see one of the pilot holes. And there's the first pilot hole. And you attach that, and this is when it really is convenient to have a magnetic bit, because you just don't have to risk losing the bit as you spin around. So then you spin around to your next pilot hole, and you slide the Lazy Susan and the plate a little bit, just until you locate the next hole. So we spin that around. Perfect. There's the next pilot hole. All right. So our base is fully assembled. It's starting to put on a little weight. So here's the ball and the skirt ball cover for the ball. And you'll notice it's got a top and bottom opening, but it also has a center access port. This comes in especially handy when you want to inflate or reinflate the ball. So what you're going to want to do is you unpack the ball, and the ball comes with an extra valve stopper and an extra inflation valve. I like the valve that comes with the pump. Attach that to there, and you lock that in place by flipping that up. And you pop the handle out. So what I like to do is not inflate the ball too much before you put it in, I like to get it unstuck from itself. Now, this is a mini pump. If you have an actual full-size bike pump at home, for the initial inflation, it's going to go a lot faster. Here's where that valve is. I'm going to put this into the skirt, and I'm lining it up through the hole, and then I'm going to pop that back out, and this will probably take about 5 minutes with this little pump. What I like to do is overinflate the ball a little bit, because the ball is your height adjustment for your chair, and it's easier to let out the air as you're getting used to it than it is to keep topping it off a little bit at a time. All right, so I've got my stopper, and kind of like filling a water cooler. You don't necessarily have to be fast. You just have to be methodical. So I stuck my finger on the hole and line that up, and barely let any air out in the process. All right, so I neaten up the fabric. And I stretch it as much as I can to close the Velcro. Alrighty, and the top and the bottom are open. There are some, don't worry about the few wrinkles under here. They are going to be hidden when you put the cushion on. So here's the cushion. If you can see, it's got a wedge shape to it. I've got a bag stuck to me. So the back of the cushion is the higher side, and you're going to line that up with the back piece on here. If you haven't assembled a few of these before, you might want to get a friend at this point. I've assembled quite a few, so I'm going to attempt this without a friend on a table with wheels. Well, that one's locked. So basically you grab a bungee, pull it all the way up, make sure it's not twisted, and you just clip it into the carabiner. And you just repeat that 4 times. So the last one, the last loop. All right. So this is a good time to walk around and see that the ball is more or less centered before you've started applying any tension. You're going to tweak this for your own preference later. What I'm doing here is I'm pulling down and then I'm pulling up, and that bites into the cleat there. And then when you get your chair set to the right height, if you've got a lot of bungee, you can tuck it into the far one. And if you've got a very tall adjustment with less bungee, you could tuck it into that one. So we're going to tuck that in there. And we're good there. And if you're not going to be using your pump anymore, remember there's a pump bracket under the front of the chair. So we just tuck that away there. And we're going to assemble the back. Here is our beautiful teal back cushion. So we've got the back slider, and this piece and this piece, because the wood has such a smooth coating on it, we actually applied a little non-stick coating to these just to get the clamps to work properly. So we've got 2 back arms. One has larger holes and one has smaller holes. And actually the same thing with the back. So if you're right-handed, you're going to have the smaller hole on the right side because that's the side the lever is going to go into. So starting with the bottom piece, to attach the bottom, we've got a flathead bolt and one of our insert nuts. We're going to put our insert nut through the bottom hole in the left side, and we're going to put our bolt through this one, and we're just going to line that up with that hole. So we've got that one, and that's going to line up with our insert nut. And we're going to tighten those down. Actually, for now, those can just be hand tight. And we're going to install our first cam lever. And there's a sequence, there's actually 5 washers that go with each cam lever. So this is the grooved washer, and that sits in like that. And then we've got a split washer, and the split washer goes between a smooth washer and that one. So we insert that through that side, and for this side we take another insert nut, and we take a split washer and a smooth washer, and so we just tighten that down. And if this starts twisting on you, I've included an Allen key, or hex key, or an Allen wrench. So we can insert that and just give that a few more. And then the way these lock is you squeeze that up, and the first time you do it, it's going to be a little stiffer as the wood compresses, and then it's going to loosen up the next couple of times. We're going to do the next one, which is the slotted piece. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to take one of these, going to take that, slide that on there, and we're going to take our split washer and our smooth washer, and we're going to line that up with that. And great, so that's lining up with that hole. And we're going to take another insert nut and another split washer and another smooth washer, and we're just going to dial those in. Great, so that is locking nicely. And last one. And small hole, big hole, okay, good. So this one actually we've got to line up. So we're going to line up those holes. So I'm going to take my last insert nut and my last split washer and my last smooth washer, and I am going to So to show you how to adjust the back, now you've got a 3-point back adjustment. So you can adjust that front to back with the bottom. You can lock that in place. You can adjust the slider. Actually, sometimes it helps to and if I loosen that a little more, that would probably come out a little easier. There we go. So you can loosen that, lock that down, and you can position that the way you want it. Lock that one down. Whoops. And there's your Språng chair.